umbilical cord stem cells in studies have shown that they can actually identify cancer cells and kill them. I would not regard umbilical cord stem cells as a cancer treatment, but at least it's not helping the cancer spread.
It's like having some blueberries. It's not going to cure cancer, but it's antioxidant. It's good.
For example, yeah. So
Hello, Heal Squad. Welcome back to part 2 of my conversation with Dr. Jonas Kuehne, a leader in both preventative and regenerative health. If you missed part 1, it was amazing, and anyone who is dealing with cancer or has someone dealing with cancer should listen to that episode, so please go back and listen and share it. We're talking all about, we talked all about methylene blue, high-dose vitamin C, and all the things you need to do to support your system through that fight. We also chatted about GLP-1 medications and supplements and a natural alternative that does exist. But today we are talking about umbilical stem cells and the incredible potential that they have in fighting disease, boosting repair, and changing the future of medicine. Moms out there, this one is for you. Moms to be, of course. And if you've ever seen Dr. Jonas on Instagram, you know he is the picture of health. And so we're going to get him to spill some of his daily rituals and what he's doing to stay ageless, because I've known him for, 15 plus years now, and he hasn't aged, and how he stays energized and optimized so that we can too. So where do we start? Maybe umbilical stem cells. So it's funny. I love this topic because I was introduced to this whole idea through our doula, but also before that here on the show, which is why I love this show. Tony Robbins has a friend who has a whole company that does the cord banking stuff. So when Athena was born, we delayed the cord cutting so that we could get as many of the stem cells, and then they collected the stem cells and they save it. And the whole idea, apparently, and you'll be able to explain this deeper for everybody, is that if she was to have an illness in the future, or even if I was to have something, we could use those to help us. You're going to break down what that all really means, because that's just my layperson's explanation. But I knew it was important to do, and so I did it.
Yeah, and technically you could pretty much use anyone's umbilical cord stem cells. They're not really differentiated yet, so they don't have that fingerprint yet, where think of if we get an organ transplant from someone else, our body will recognize that as foreign. And in order for this not to be rejected, we need to be on immunomodulatory medications that suppress our immune system, right? Here with the cells, these are very early cells. These are very young cells. They actually become your own cells to some extent. So they take on your own fingerprint. They become your own. They don't necessarily stay forever, but they work. They heal. They repair. That's what stem cells do. And when you look at, we're all born with stem cells. When you're born, 1 in 10,000 cells is a stem cell. And at my age now, so I'm 56 now, so I have probably...
Oh my God, you're 56.
Well, yeah.
Jonas, holy shit.
I feel like 96 sometimes. And
you literally look like you're 26.
No.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so with these stem cells now, my stem cells are probably one in a million close to there, right? And also, they're not very good anymore. So when the misconception about stem cells that people had for a while was that they would come in and they would just replicate and build tissue, right? That's not exactly the case. So think of stem cells as architects, workers, electricians. Think of your house, your body as a house, and you get this crew in there that can repair, right? And then there's the drywall guy and the plumber and all these kind of things that are very good at their job. And when we're born, these guys are in their 30s. They're really at the top of their game. They're very good. They can build, repair. Look at children getting injured. They repair much faster than we do, right? At my age now, so they're 30 plus 56. So they're in their late 80s, and they might have mild dementia. They're not so good anymore, and they're lazy. So they don't, first of all, have less of them, and they're not as functional. And that's a big difference, actually. So these young newborn stem cells, they're much better workers. They can repair better, right? That's one advantage that I see, because until recently, we would extract stem cells from your fat or your bone marrow and then concentrate it and then inject it in yourself, right? Autologous stem cells. And that's something that's been done. Of course, there's a whole surgical procedure preceding that. It's expensive.
Probably and painful too, right?
Yeah, and I think the outcome is not that great. Now, of course, this industry is a bit at odds now with the umbilical cord stem cells because, there's money to be made in both as well, of course, right? But the umbilical cord stem cells, the nice thing is that they're newborn. They are much better workers, in my opinion. And one difference is when we looked at this in cell culture is that, for example, cancer cells. Now, it is still a contraindication when we do stem cells on someone if someone has cancer. Because, again, our own cells are not very good at recognizing cancer anymore. They're old, they're not that smart anymore, and they might accidentally support the cancer cells, right? Now, the umbilical cord stem cells in studies have shown that they can actually identify cancer cells and kill them. I would not regard umbilical cord stem cells as a cancer treatment, but at least it's not helping the cancer spread. By contrary, it might decrease it slightly, right? So I think at some point we might regard it as an anti-cancer therapy as part of something else, because when people have cancer, stuff gets destroyed, and having stem cells that can rebuild, right?
So it's like having some blueberries. It's not going to cure cancer, but it's antioxidant. It's good.
For example, yeah. So it's good, exactly.
It's the blueberries of that
Whereas
world.
your own stem cells are more like the pack of Marlboro, which is not good, right? So you can look at it in that realm. But yeah, so these stem cells are fantastic. Again, we don't have to do HLA typing, which is like matching, right? Because they don't have that fingerprint yet, and they become your own and they work. They have to be, here's the thing. So a lot of times now people go out of the country to do it, and it started out, I think, in Panama. Riordan Clinic is very famous, and I'm pretty sure that they're doing a great job there too. In the US, the FDA limits what we do with these cells, and we are not allowed to expand these cells. And what that means is, so you go to another country and they say, well, instead of giving you 2 million cells per ml, we're giving you 100 million, right? And it sounds better.
Yes, of course.
Number, right? You want more, right? Like the bigger fries. It's America.
Supersize me.
Of course. But the problem that they have seen is the way they expand these cells. They put the original cells from the umbilical cord into a Petri dish, and they let them divide. But because they divide, they become already slightly differentiated, and they're not as potent anymore. So they lose potency in this process. Numbers go up, potency goes down. And I think the best way is to use them unaltered, to just use the original cells from the cord without expanding them and using those. And that's the only thing we're allowed to do in the US.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, I thought this was all illegal, stem cells and all of that.
No, until recently, I think until 2 years ago, we could do it, but it had to be, you were part of a study, as
That's
part
what
of the
it
study.
was, yeah.
Now
Because when I got diabetes, I looked into stem cell
Yeah.
therapies in Brazil.
Right.
And something didn't feel right about it, so I didn't do it.
You need to
and
know
I was
where
like,
they come
I'm
from.
going to heal myself. And I did. I got off all insulin. After being diagnosed, I was looking into those therapies, and I was like, I'm going to do this myself. And I started eating in a way that would require as little insulin as possible.
Yeah.
I wanted my pancreas to not think I was going to give it insulin endogenously. I was telling it to produce it exogenously in my meditations. And it worked. My C-peptide went up from non-existent to a 1.1. My A1C went from a 10.6 to a 5.3. And then I got off all insulin. But then when I found out I had the pancreas tumor, they had to remove it. That means, insulin was a thing after that.
Yeah.
But the stem cells was really interesting. There was just something in me that didn't feel right about it, so I didn't do it.
Yeah, and when you go out of the country too, again, you have to see how strictly it's controlled. It's a human product, so here it's very strict.
If you're getting that, who knows what you're getting?
Yeah, but here you do, and that's the thing. So they only use it from healthy C-section births, right? And it's usually the cord. There's this Wharton's jelly in there, and all these cells are in there. They also use part of the placenta.
But do you have to know if the person's overall health was good before you decide to use theirs?
Yeah, they wouldn't collect it if that wasn't the case. So they do check records, of course. If someone has any communicable diseases, they will not accept the tissue, right?
Okay.
But then also the FDA is very strict. I think it gets tested actually twice. So they collect the tissue, they harvest the cells, and then everything gets tested. So you test for hepatitis C, for HIV, all these communicable diseases. You test for bacterial content and all that stuff. And it has to be a C-section because the tissue is not allowed to go through the birth canal because of contamination issues. So it's very strict. So in the US, I would say the FDA doesn't like stem cells very much because they can't control it because it's a biological product, right?
Wait, why don't they want natural birth? Like ours was a natural birth, and we
can
took our
collect it
stem
because
cells.
but it's your own, right?
Oh.
Yeah. But in terms of commercially available stem cells here, it's always C-section births
Got
because
it.
you have a sterile field when you take
Collect.
the cord out.
Okay.
It doesn't go through the birth canal, right? And that's why. So again, for your own, absolutely fine. Yes, you can use that. But that's just one of the requirements by the FDA, and they're very strict. And here I think it's good that the FDA is strict because you don't want to get a biologic product that can cause problems in your body that might have, again, we think of viral disease, we think of other abnormalities, right? And they're usually getting them from areas also, again, it has to be healthy. Sometimes I think a lot of them collect from Utah. There's a big Mormon population that have children very young. Also, they don't do a lot of drugs and anything there. So a friend of mine in med school, he was Mormon, was sitting next to him, didn't drink no coffee, no nothing, That's very interesting. So it's very screened here. So in terms
No
of that,
coffee.
I feel good. Now, when you go out of the country, again, it doesn't mean that what they have is bad for you. It's just that I don't know what standards they use to collect the cells and how it's tested. As long as they have the same requirements, it's probably fine. But then the issue of expansion comes in, where I think it's not a good idea to expand them. I think it's better to use them as natural as they are, in their original state without having been expanded. That's my opinion. But it's a great treatment. And again, we can't advertise what we use it for. That's an FDA regulation that's saying you can use them. You don't have to be part of a study. I can say, you want to come do stem cells? Sure, we'll do stem cells. But I can't tell you what I'm using it for, which is kind of weird, right, as a provider. But so it's been used for anything from autism to joint disorders to autoimmune disorder, with good results, And again, these cells, they can also cross the blood-brain barrier. They can repair lesions in the brain.
Tumors?
So that's a good question. So I mean, they can possibly...
Isn't a lesion just a tumor anyway? What's the difference?
The lesion would be when the tumor is removed, or if the tumor dies off, there will be scar tissue. So there will be some problem that can be fixed. Now, can it repair that completely? No, because neurons in the brain are very difficult to regrow, right? It's rare. Central nervous system neurons, once usually when they're destroyed, we think they cannot be, replaced easily at least. But there's some studies that show now that we can to some extent get more neurons there as well. So, but stem cells can certainly fix things from daily wear and tear, from the aging process. It's a great anti-aging treatment too, because think of skin, right?
Do you
cells
do
that
it?
Produce, yeah, but not a lot. Because
That's
it's
why you look
expensive.
like this. That's why. It's the umbilical stem cells.
That's more recent for me, but yeah.
Guys, if you're not watching this on YouTube, you should.
So I think it's a great treatment, and it's as natural as it gets. These are cells that are designed, to improve things. It's designed to fix stuff, right?
So are you doing this in your clinic?
Yeah, I am. Mm-hmm.
So you're injecting it?
Intravenously, yeah. Given by intravenous, yeah.
I'm
given
coming.
IV, yeah. It's fantastic. And we order them. They get shipped overnight. They're frozen. It's actually funny. So I had this one time where the shipment was delayed and my patient was there and we're waiting for FedEx to come in.
Did she get older looking
comes
by
on
the
dry
minute?
ice. Yeah, they're like...
She showed up. She looked young. And by the time we injected her, she looked so old. I'm kidding.
Slight delay, yeah. But no, it's great. And these are here again, they come with paperwork that shows, the batch number and testing and all this stuff is in there.
It's like certification.
Yeah, and then you just defrost them, right? And then you place a normal saline IV. There's a filter that sort of breaks the cells up so you don't get any clumps of cells, that they go single file in, right? And then you use them. And it's interesting. So the next day, usually people are very tired. These cells, they concentrate first in lung and liver, and then they divide naturally in your body.
Wait, what do they do in the liver? I have issues in the liver.
They go all over. Yeah, they go lung and liver predominantly, and they divide, and then they go to the rest of your body. You know what I mean?
So does it mean that it'll do things in the lungs and the liver fastest?
Yes, that's where they go first, but then they go from there to other places as well. Wherever there's a chemical signal. So whenever you have an injury, there's chemical signals that attract these cells, right? They say, hey, there's something broken here. Go there and fix it, right? That's why we don't like to give stem cells in someone that has, let's say you have a cold, you have a viral infection. That's not a good idea because you waste a lot of cells on stuff that would get better anyway. You want to be, when you get stem cells, you want to be as healthy as possible. You want to be optimized in your vitamins, your minerals. If you're a smoker or drinker, don't smoke or drink at least a week or two before and 2 weeks after. You don't want to mess this up. You want to get the best out of these cells and not fix stuff that is something that is not as important as the big things they should be addressing, right?
Is it expensive?
Yeah, the material is expensive because of the FDA testing and all that.
So what does one injection cost?
Depends. We usually start at 2 ml or 2 cc's intravenously. I think it's about 4,600, something like that. Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you better not drink and you better not do shit. That's a lot of money to gamble on.
But it's because the material is very expensive.
So you start at that, and then how often do you need to do them?
So if you do it for, let's say,
if you let's say have a brain tumor, type 1 diabetes, liver lesions, and all kinds of things, like how many would one like that need? And just maybe random. They're 46 and could benefit from the anti-aging too. Go ahead.
So totally random example.
Yes.
So you can, again, I would do one course first and see are there improvements, right? And then you could do every 6 months or so, Of course, then it gets expensive. But every 6 months, I think is fair to do because it takes, before you have the full effect of these, probably 2 to 3 months, right? And then at that point, they repair, they fix, and then they're slowly simmering down. And then at the 6 month mark, it's a good mark to do another course usually. Sometimes if someone has lovely, so my colleague, so interesting, I went to medical school with her. She also does stem cells, Dr. Kong, right? And she actually started this. She was way before me. She was like, Jonas, you got to get into stem cells. You got to, she pioneered this a bit, right? And she had fantastic cases. She has a big clinic. They mostly do stem cells. That's all they do. She also has her own harvesting of it and this whole thing. And she had someone that was in liver failure that was, they were about to die. They could not get a transplant. There was a history of alcoholism. They would not go onto a transplant list. And she says, I don't know if it's going to help you. The liver was in really bad shape. And she gave them 2 cc's of stem cells intravenously and says, well, come back in 1 week. We do another 2 cc's. And they never came back to patient. So she just assumed then, well, lost to follow up. Maybe they passed away. Heard from them 6 months later, liver functions normal, patients alive and doing really well. And that's, of course, extreme. You have some of these cases.
Wow.
Doesn't mean works for everyone, but that's profound. Having a liver that's failing to complete recovery. Now, again, it's always, the issue is, can you guarantee that everybody will have this phenomenal response? You can't. It's a natural product, it'll do work. It'll fix things in your body. How profound that is can vary. And this is also hard then. One, you can't advertise it. The second thing is, I can't personally guarantee that your particular issue will improve tremendously. But it's a great anti-aging treatment. Think about it. Your cells, as they are getting older, are not working so great anymore. They will have less mitochondria. They make less energy. Some of them might accumulate too much junk over time, and at some point they have to get weeded out. So stem cells can fix all that stuff, and they can make you healthier again, and can help the cells, even in skin, collagen-producing cells. They can help with all of that. So I think there is definitely that component as well. That is anti-aging component that we often overlook. Yeah.
So how long does it stay in your system? Like, you put an IV in, that, you're going to pee out most of the vitamin, or, you get a chemo treatment by IV, it lasts 24 hours. Right. Is there any knowledge on how long this stays in? Like, how long do you tell people not to drink after?
Don't drink. No.
Period.
No. Usually about 1 week, I don't want them to do anything that can disturb it. Just to, first 2 days, don't exercise, just moderate stuff. And then you can do moderate exercise again and all that. But don't drink, don't smoke if you do that for at least a week. But these cells, again, part of them become part of your own cells, but they don't really have to. They recruit other materials and cells to the site where they repair stuff, and they repair it. Once it's repaired, technically it lasts as long as that tissue lasted before. It's not like more fragile in that sense, right?
Yeah.
But the cells themselves, most of them don't stay with you. You don't pee them out really. They break down at some point. Some of them become your own cells, but the majority of the cells don't. Because when you build a house, you don't live with your contractor and your drywall guy, you want them to come in and build the stuff, and then at some point they can go. Unless they're really nice.
You're talking to the wrong person, because they are basically living with us and have been for years. Okay. But yeah, that makes sense.
In general, I would say, yeah. So but they do the work and then out. And so the 6 month timeline for many people works. If someone has an autoimmune disorder, sometimes, you might do it a bit more frequent than that, right? Maybe
so you're seeing it successfully healing autoimmune stuff.
Has been very helpful in autoimmune disorders. Yeah. Wow. Again, it's always difficult to promise, and officially we can't say, oh yeah, we think we'll address it. But there are data where it's been used and has been very helpful. And one thing, again, I have never treated someone with autism. My friend Dr. Kong, she has, and she says it's been very profound how it really improved people's ability, activity of daily living, and really having more, having a profound impact, right? Again, does everybody respond? Don't know. But I think it's a fairly low risk treatment because, again, once all these cells are screened and tested for and we give it in the appropriate way, if we're cautious about how we administer it, I would say compared to other treatments, the risk is significantly lower.
Wow. Well, sounds like I'm going to need a little spring reset with a little of the stem cells, but also it is spring and you need a reset, perhaps, friends. And Macy's will be your friend as well because they're having their friends and family event where you can get an extra 30% off their best brands like INC, Steve Madden, Cuisinart, All Clad. You can get 15% off beauty items. I am going to be restocking some Clinique stuff for my loved ones in my life and some more linen pieces. As you know, I'm obsessed with linen right now. So if you plan to shop or maybe you're going to shop for someone else, of course, Mother's Day is a few weeks away. Kev and I aren't big on gifts, but I definitely will never say no to, maybe a surprise something or other showing up here. I don't know. Hint, hint. He doesn't take hints though, because he probably doesn't even listen. But that's just how it goes. Anyway, be sure to shop in store. He's going to definitely listen to this one just because I said that. Be sure to shop in store from April 24th to May 4th. Use the promo code FRIEND at checkout on Macy's.com. Promo code is called FRIENDS, guys. If you want to get 30% off their best brands and 15% off their beauty items, use the promo code FRIEND when you check out at Macy's.com. And don't forget, I have all of my Mother's Day gift ideas in my wish list below to help you in your shopping. Enjoy. So I'm definitely coming in for a little treatment. That is for sure. Because especially when you talk about it going to the lung and the liver first, they had found a lung lesion. Back when they found all this stuff, there was like a bunch of other stuff too. So, but the liver thing is wild. And I don't know if when they operated on me, the radiologist that I talked to said that maybe this fibrosis thing that they see on my liver is just they damaged it accidentally because I was perfect before surgery. And after surgery, all of a sudden I have fibrosis and I don't even really drink. And then I have all these liver lesions that popped up. So I love the idea that this is a potential to heal my liver. And so I'm definitely going to come in for that. We also want to talk a little bit about, let me see one second, actually stand by because we talked about that. Kind of feel like we talked a little bit about this in the first episode, but okay, you guys will edit that out. What else do you do for anti-aging? Because again, if you're watching this on YouTube, this man across from me is trying to tell me he's 56. And I can't say he's a liar because I've known him for too long. So he's telling the truth, guys. And his wife is just as ageless. And so between the cryotherapy that I know you guys do, you're doing the stem cells. Is she doing the stem cells too?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's an expensive treatment, so this will be more like a Valentine's gift or something. I don't know yet. Her birthday.
15% off at Macy's. You could just get her a perfume or like some moisturizer. It's a lot cheaper.
Might be better.
Yeah. What else do you do to stay young and healthy?
So I do everything we discussed about in terms of the supplements. The vitamin D supplementation, very important in my opinion.
What vitamin D do you use?
So I use one from Amazon, Jeff Bezos' brand. It's called, I think, Sports Nutrition.
Okay.
I don't have a particular brand that I would recommend over others, but that's what I've been using for a while, and I'm testing my own vitamin D level, so I know it's working.
Oh, that's good.
So it's called, I think, Sports Research, and it has K2 in it. However, it's too low.
What does K2 do?
That's very important. So vitamin K2, people think of vitamin K as clotting vitamin. That's K1. K2 is very different. So vitamin K2 is in things like butter and some fish, but we get very little of it. And it has very profound anti-cancer effects by itself. Actually, vitamin K can trigger apoptosis of cancer cells. It can decrease the ability of cancer cells to divide. We all have usually too little of that as well. And it's fairly impossible almost to overdose on that one. Now, vitamin D, I think you can. K, not so much, but you shouldn't take too much of anything, of course. So vitamin K is given together with vitamin D. When you take vitamin D, one function is that you reabsorb more calcium from the digestive tract. And that calcium, the absorption generally is good. We have more calcium available, but it needs to go to bone. And that's what K2 does, amongst other things. It directs calcium back to bone. Because otherwise, calcium can deposit in your arteries, which is not good. Then you get, hardening of your arteries, and you get plaques in your arteries, right? So K2 with D3 is very important to take together. I usually recommend, so I take 5,000 D3 with about 400 K2. They usually come 5,100 micrograms. So 5,000 IU D3 with 100 micrograms K2, and that's too low in my opinion. So I'm adding some extra in. Same company also makes just the K2, so I just add some in, right? Magnesium, zinc. So I take those supplements. I work out every day. I have my own home gym now. I started in COVID. Before I went to the gym, I work out early. I get up at 4:30 in the morning. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, because this is the only way for me to work out. I have my black coffee. I'm still fasting first in the morning, right? I just have my espresso, and then I have my little home gym, and I work out. I'd say 4 or 5 days with weights very hard, and then 3 days cardio, right? And the other things
Every day.
Yeah, I do something every day, at least an hour.
Wow.
Something an hour, absolutely. Yeah.
4:30 in the morning.
Yeah. When I was younger, it was easier. I could just, you look at a dumbbell and you gain muscle, right? Now I really have to work at it. I have to optimize my protein. I have to eat better. But the other thing I would say that's the most anti-aging thing I do, besides the low-dose methylene blue I'm taking, is dietary-wise. I'm trying to really cut out all seed oils. I'm cutting out, I'm trying not to buy anything that has crap in it. Artificial sweeteners, artificial food colors. So
even
really
stevia?
Yeah, that's a natural sweetener. I use it in moderation.
Okay.
And it's in my protein powder. I make a protein shake every day, but I'll buy, I'll mix it with organic strawberries and blueberries. Because when you buy regular, it's sprayed. There's glyphosate. And of course, the industry will tell you, glyphosate, we don't think it's that bad for you. It's crap. It's a neurotoxin,
Yeah.
It's so weird how we're still kind of led to believe, the industry controls this tightly and the amount that you get in your food is fine. First of all, no one knows how much an individual takes in, right? And the other thing is, the second thing they don't know is how easily that gets excreted again, right? It's ridiculous. So no, I would try as long as possible, go organic. I don't want to spend too much money on food, so I get frozen fruit. That's organic, right? I try to get for the kids too more like eggs, ideally pasteurized, but even cage-free at this point is so expensive, whatever I can get. Having more whole foods. So when you go in the supermarket, you go around the periphery. You don't buy the packaged stuff with all the extra ingredients, right? So eating clean, having breaks between meals. Because I think, again, when we talk about insulin release, every time you eat, insulin gets released. And even when you're ketogenic, even protein and fats do stimulate insulin release, right? To some extent. Not as much as carbs, but they do.
Yeah.
And I eat within a 10-hour time frame. Again, I say, look, as long as I get about 180 to 200 grams of protein a day from good sources, maybe some chicken breasts, some meat, some eggs, a protein powder, minimizing my carbs. I have some rice, and then having fat in moderation, like avocado oil, olive oil, beef tallow sometimes, butter. Those are all fine in my opinion. Then that's kind of good. And then I have about 4 distinct meals a day, but nothing in between just water. And I think that's important for people to understand. To have about a 14-hour period overnight where you're fasting, because one thing that helps with anti-aging and disease prevention is autophagy. Autophagy is when your cells are allowed to clean out. When you don't have energy coming in, they can clean out stuff that shouldn't be there. They can reorganize, and it's important to have that period. So I'm eating in a 10-hour period about 4 meals, and then the meals are slightly bigger. Biggest meals first in the morning. I have about 70 grams of protein probably with my breakfast, with a shake, and a breakfast. And then you slow down. You can actually absorb more protein than 20 or 30 grams per meal. That was a misconception we had. A study showed you can go to 100 grams without, yeah. But anti-aging wise, so when you do having a strategic meal intake and then having a fasting period overnight, avoiding things like pesticides, herbicides, artificial things, that's one of the best anti-aging things that you can do,
What do you do for milk?
So I use only a little bit. I use a lactose-free milk. For the kids, I actually buy organic milk, grass-fed milk, right? A little bit better. But I use very little milk. I have about a cup, maybe a cup and a half a day. That's about it.
Yeah. I've recently gone back to regular milk.
Yeah.
because I've gotten so frustrated with all the almond milks and all the shit that they have in them and didn't realize all this time we thought we were doing good.
Yeah.
And then you see it's got the guar gums and all this other junk in there. And you're like, wait, no wonder there are so many hormonal issues that I'm dealing with. But then regular milk is getting injected with hormones. But at the very least, it's the most natural source, I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've just switched.
Yeah, I think it's fine. And if you get organic, or you get organic, really means mostly grass-fed milk. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Or even there's Khalifa that's just 3 ingredients. So that's the almond milk I will have sometimes. But I just have it with my coffee, so that's not a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the worst is probably oat milk. That's just soybean oil and some other crap, and they selling it like it's the greatest thing. It's not.
Oh my God, everyone's like ordering oat milk, and I'm like, they have no idea.
No.
It's so high in sugar.
Yeah.
And oats are covered in glyphosates.
Yeah, that's the other thing. So we do have oats, and my son loves oatmeal, but I get organic oats, and it's not that much more expensive. Quaker oats that we had before, that's one of the worst ones. They're full of glyphosate. So you should weed out
Mr. Quaker.
those things. Yeah, I used to like you guys, but now that I know, not anymore. But
you know what? Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because I cut oats completely out, and oats are good for you.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you run out of stuff. So lately, I don't tolerate Greek yogurt so well anymore. I used to have always Greek yogurt for lunch, but it doesn't. And that's one thing. So to understand, when you get older, you have to consume more protein, and you have to watch more in terms of what vitamins you take. I do give myself vitamin B12, B complex shots as well in our clinic. Now, the digestive tract, as you get older, gets, it's not as good at absorbing nutrients anymore, and that does slow down. And you have people that are really old; they might have anemia due to B12 deficiencies. It's very common, even though they take supplements, but you don't absorb it well anymore. And then you can bypass that, right? One thing, if you take a supplement, make sure it has methylcobalamin, that's the methylated B12, and methylfolate, because about 70% of the population have this MTHFR gene abnormality, where you have a decreased methylation capability, right? And then 30% have it on both alleles. You make very little active vitamin, because the vitamin you take from your vitamin tablet needs to go in from the digestive tract to the bloodstream first, and then it needs to be methylated. And if you don't methylate it well, you don't get a lot out of it, right? And then there's issues. So yeah, having the right vitamins, I think that's very important. Making sure that you have also foods that have still vitamins in them, which are more natural foods, right? Makes a huge difference. But yeah, so Greek yogurt, I don't eat anymore. So oats now, I get organic oats. I sometimes make overnight oats, with just like organic oats and some vanilla protein powder. I put some ground organic flax seeds and some ground organic chia seeds, just a little bit. You makes it a bit thicker, right? Mm-hmm. And then you let that sit overnight. And so the oats will have, of course, gluten in there, but it's in a different form. It's called gliadin, I believe.
Yep.
And that is not as difficult to digest as regular wheat. Here in the US now, I don't eat a lot of bread because our wheat here is very high in gluten compared to Europe. When we go to Germany sometimes in the summer, I eat their bread because their wheat is about 60% less gluten, right? And it's less glyphosate as well, for sure. It's not glyphosate-free always, but it's less glyphosate. But yeah, oats are okay in moderation, in my opinion. It's not, you listen to other people. I know that you had Dave Asprey on. He doesn't like oats. He calls it the peasant food, I think. And it's true. I mean, yeah, it satiates you. Other people say, well, it might take away some of your minerals. In small amounts, I think it's fine. Because look, at the end of the day, you also have to have foods, first of all, you like, that do fill you up, and that have some variety. And therefore, as long as you eat some carbs, as it comes to carbs, in my opinion, oats in moderation are okay.
Yeah, variety is so important.
Yeah.
Dr. Jonas, this was an amazing 2-parter. You're going to have to come back because there's so many other topics I'd love to tackle with you. But thank you so much for sharing everything. And yeah, I think we're going to have to do this again.
Thank you. And yeah, definitely amazing. And I was going to say, talk of no aging. I mean, you're really the picture of it, really.
Oh
amazing.
My God.
Yeah,
Thank you. I'll take it.
It's great. Yeah. But
it's the sun.
Fantastic.
People are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm in the sun. It's crazy what happens when you get in the sun.
Yeah, it's good for
I
you.
mean, I'm red lighting too. We talked about red light in the first episode, but I have my red light like an inch off of my body. So I lay on the table and it's right on my body. So it can go as deep as it can at that point. But I think that maybe that's probably doing something too. But anyhow, thank you guys for listening. If you liked this episode and the last episode, part 1, please share it with a friend. In the meantime, be nice people, make good choices, and be present. Hey, Heal Squad, we have been on quite the journey together, and we're hearing from so many of you just how much this show is helping you heal and get better, and it makes us feel so good. We love, love, love it, and we just ask that you don't keep it to yourself. Spread the message and share the show or your favorite episode with your friends. And if you want to help us even more, you can leave us a 5-star rating and a comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and follow us on Instagram at Heal Squad. You can also DM us anytime because we love connecting with you. And finally, you can also join us on Patreon for our monthly live heal events with world-class healers and ad-free episodes exclusive only to Patreon and our Super Heal Squad for as little as $10 a month. So go to patreon.com/Heal Squad to join. Getting better isn't easy, friends, but as I say all the time, it's a whole lot easier if we can do it together. We love you all so much, and we love doing this thing called life with you.
This podcast and all related content published or distributed by or on behalf of Maria Menounos or MariaMenounos.com is for informational purposes only and may include information that is general in nature and that is not specific to you. Any information or opinions expressed or contained herein are not intended to serve as or replace medical advice, nor to diagnose, prescribe, or treat any disease, condition, illness, or injury, and you should consult the healthcare professional of your choice regarding all matters concerning your health, including before beginning any exercise, weight loss, or healthcare program. If you have or suspect you may have a healthcare emergency, please contact a qualified healthcare professional for treatment. Any information or opinions provided by a guest expert or host featured within website or on company's podcast are their own, not those of Maria Menounos or the company. Accordingly, Maria Menounos and the company cannot be responsible for any results or consequences or actions you may take based on information or opinions.